George from Minutia is here for this is the third in this series. Today we'll be talking about how to run an audit on your blog, something that everybody needs to do on a regular basis. I'm assuming we'll talk a little bit more about that, probably at least twice a year, I would think. So we'll get into that. One just quick announcement. We have another webinar happening next week. We have May Habib, CEO of Writer, is going to come in and do some demos on how to use AI in some very practical content marketing workflows. So she'll be actually like walking us through how to use Writer, her tool, obviously, to do things like automatically generate emails, write tons of meta descriptions, update content, and a few other things. So we'll obviously have more info about that. Assuming we're good, I'll just check real quick with Sierra to make sure we're all good. I think we're set. George, why don't I hand it over to you? Would you mind just giving a quick intro of yourself and Minutia before diving in?
Sure, let's do it. Let me, share my screen, and I will also share a couple of things about me and Minutia for people who haven't attended any of the other webinars that we did together. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
That's great. So before we dive into today's topic, which is very interesting and I'm very excited about it, and we have many things that I would like to share. A couple of things. The first, you don't have to take any notes. There will be obviously a recording, and you will have access to the Google Slides presentation that I will be using throughout the webinar. And also, you will have access to 2 templates that we will be giving away to people who attended the webinar and joined us today. Okay, so having that said, a couple of things about me. My name is George Hasiotis. I'm the managing director at Minutia. We are an organic growth acceleration agency for B2B SaaS companies. We help these companies accelerate organic growth through data-driven content marketing and SEO. And one of the things that we do for these companies is audit their content. Okay, now before we get started, let me just say that every person, every professional has their own ways of describing things, opinions, terminology, and so on and so forth. Today, we are going to share our process. It's not right or wrong. It's, it is what it is. And of course, you can take only the things that you feel will be of value for you and your company, the companies you work with, your clients, and so on and so forth. Having that said, let's dive right into it. I will jump on and off this presentation because I have many tabs open that I would like to share with you. It's going to be intense, lots of information, but please stay with me until the end. I'm sure, regardless of the level and the level of your expertise, you will definitely learn something new today. Now, let's get started with something, a very basic question. What is a content audit? Now, a content audit, if we could give, let's say, an answer to this question. Content audit is a process that has the goal of improving content performance by identifying opportunities for optimization on a page and block-wide level. Most people who conduct content audits focus on page level content audits, meaning that they want to improve the performance of a certain piece of content that underperforms, that has potential of performing better, and so on. We don't focus as much as content marketers, like SEO professionals, whatever, on like taking a step back and seeing the full picture, which is the blog-wide level. Okay, now what are the main elements of a content audit? We have 3 main elements, 2 of which we've seen in the previous slide. Well, the first one is that we need to provide recommendations on a page level, and we will see how that looks like in a template that you will have access to. You will be able to make your own copy and use, as I mentioned previously. Then we need to provide recommendations on a blog-wide level, which once again is something that most content audits, at least as far as I'm concerned, miss. Okay, and obviously after that, after we have all these great recommendations, someone has to execute on them. Okay, so we have execution as one of the main elements of a content audit. Okay, now how do we get there? We have 6 steps that we could say consist a typical content audit process. First of all, we have to gather some data, okay, because without data, how can we make decisions mostly on a page level? I would say that data is something we are interested in and help us on a page level. So the first step, data gathering. We gather organic and business performance data. We will see what kind of data in a minute. Then we have to, if we are interested in our efforts resulting in higher organic visibility, organic clicks, and so on and so forth, we have to map keywords to specific pages, obviously when that's possible, because many pages or some pages, depending on how you do content marketing, may not target a search audience. However, you have to map keywords when a page targets a search audience. We have to map the best keyword possible to that page, which is also known as keyword mapping. Okay. The third step that we have is search intent, lifecycle stage, and CTA mapping. So at this stage, we know what the target keyword is, which is great. We have the target keyword in place. Then we have to say that based on this target keyword, it seems that people who are conducting this search using this keyword and relevant keywords are, I would say, in this life cycle stage, the search intent seems to be informational or commercial, or whatever the search intent may be. And also based on our understanding of the intent and the life cycle stage, and obviously our understanding and knowledge of our product or service, this is the most appropriate CTA, call to action, for this page. Okay. Then we move forward obviously with page level recommendations, because at this point we know how the page performs. We have mapped a certain keyword to that page, and we have also mapped search intent, lifecycle stage, and CTAs that are relevant to that page. We are now ready to provide recommendations on a page level. After we do that, we can, as I mentioned previously, take a step back and start thinking about things from a more holistic, let's say, point of view, which is when we come up with blog-wide level recommendations. Okay. And obviously, let me just say here regarding blog-wide level recommendations, we use the word blog, but I would say that these recommendations basically include any other sections on your website where you may have content. And this could include, for example, a glossary, a knowledge hub that you may have, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, the sixth step, which is extremely important, and I would say it's where most content audits fail based on my on the experiences we have so far, prioritization and execution. Meaning that, okay, it's great, we have all these page level and blog wide level recommendations. What do we do with these things, and how where do we get started, and how do we execute in the best possible way? We are going to talk obviously for all of these things. Okay, but in a nutshell, I would say that this slide here presents the typical process that we follow when conducting a content audit. Okay, now let's get started with data gathering, even though we will take a look at the Google Sheet that I have for you today to see how this actually looks like, even though the data we have are, just dummy data. They are not actual data, real data. We categorize the data that we gather into two main categories. We have primary metrics and secondary metrics. And when it comes to primary metrics, these are metrics that can actually affect our decisions and our decision making process and way of thinking and approaching a page. We have organic search metrics here and business metrics. When it comes to organic search metrics, we take into account things like number of page views, number of keywords, number of referring domains. Okay, the interval we use for the number of page views is the last 12 months. If you are conducting audits on a shorter interval, for example, every 6 months, obviously the data that you will get are for the last 6 months. Okay, and when it comes to organic keywords and referring domains, this is something that we get from Ahrefs, and obviously we are interested in the most recent value available. Okay, and then we also take into account business metrics, because as content marketers, as your professionals, we are so obsessed over traffic, keywords. Not that these things are not important, but at the end of the day, if they don't result into business outcomes and help drive business performance, I would say that then there must be something wrong in the way we do content marketing, SEO, however you want to call it. Okay. So when it comes to business metrics, we take into account assisted conversions with a look back window of 30 days. That depends on, obviously, like how short or how long your sales cycle is, of course. But I would say a 30-day look back window is, in many cases, enough to give you a somehow clear view on the performance of that page. Then number of leads, and every company, of course, defines leads in a different way. But I would say that for us, leads is, one step. I would say that leads are essentially ready to become customers of course, becoming a lead, and so we take into account the number of leads, and then, of course, the number of customers based on the leads that we generated. Okay, these are the primary metrics. The secondary metrics that we take into account, these do not, I would say, affect our decisions, but we take them into account nevertheless. The number of internal links. And the reason why this is important is because we may say that, this page can't stand on its own. Why don't we redirect it to another page or merge it with 3-4 other pages? Because it seems that there is, some overlapping information. That's great. But if we see that this page, for example, has 134 internal links from other pages on our website, well, this is a bit tricky, because this means that we may have to go on and change these internal links as part of the content audit, which is not something that we would like to do, of course. Okay, so number of internal links, the date that the page was last updated or published, which is also known as date modified in some cases, in some CMSs. This is important because, you need to give this page, this content piece, some time to perform, obviously. I mean, if you publish a page in October, you can't expect it realistically to perform, in most cases, of course, unless you have a website like HubSpot, for example. You can't expect it to perform, in November. So you have to give it some time. And last but not least, the position that this page has for its target keyword, the target keyword that we have mapped, that I discussed a bit earlier. Okay, these are some secondary metrics which kind of help us in the decision making process, but I would say are not as important as the primary metrics that we just saw, which are categorized into organic search metrics and business metrics. Okay, one thing I would like to also mention before we jump into the Google Sheet, based on an example that I have prepared for you, is I mentioned earlier search intent, lifecycle stage, and CTA mapping. Okay, search intent is obviously the intent behind the target keyword, and I mentioned two of these intents, like informational, commercial, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the lifecycle stage, it's the stage at which the search engine user or the visitor, let's say, is most likely at while conducting a search. We will see how we categorize these stages. And last but not least, CTAs. I would say CTAs are very case specific, and they are also connected to how you, because for some companies, for example, let's take a software as a service company, a CTA may be sign up for a requested demo. Okay, demo request may be a CTA. In that case, then leads for you may be people who have requested a demo. Okay, so CTAs are always case specific, but I would say it's a very important part of the process that you should do before making any decisions. And the reason why this is important is because, as we often see, many companies, even though they do good in terms of creating content, publishing content, and so on and so forth, they are not. It's not so clear. Let's say what's the right CTA for each page is. Okay, so while you're conducting a content audit, it's a great opportunity for you to map CTAs to specific pages. Before we dive any deeper, do we have any questions that it's worth discussing right now?
No, not yet. Just a reminder, folks, if you do have questions, feel free to leave them. There's two tabs. There's a messages tab. There's also a Q&A tab. Either's fine. The messages tab is probably easier, actually. So none right now, George, but as folks have them, please drop them, and we'll either get to them at the end, or if it makes sense, we'll insert some in the middle.
Okay, that's great. So let's use an example. Respona, a full disclaimer, Respona is one of our clients, and they are pretty active when it comes to creating content and publishing content on their blog. As you can see, I wouldn't say that it's too many blog posts in the XML sitemap, but more than 100 in general, I would say, is a good number to indicate that it's a good time for us to do a content audit. Okay, so the first thing that we would do here, and actually we did the exercise, is that we will get the data. We took the URLs, obviously, and there are different ways to get this data. You can either use an import XML function, or you can use Screaming Frog, or whatever way works for you. We took the data and we refer to this. Let's say this URL says the content inventory that Respona has, and as you can see here, we have 122 rows. Okay, 122 blog posts. Now we took referring domains. This is something that we took from Ahrefs. We took the number of keywords, and page views here. I think it's organic traffic from Ahrefs because we can't share actual data from our clients. Google Analytics or Google Search Console accounts. Then we have assisted conversions. We mentioned that earlier. These are all dummy data, by the way. Okay. We have number of leads generated, and obviously, as I mentioned previously, the number of leads generated are different for Respona and for any other company. Okay, because every company has their own way and interpretation of what a lead is. Then the number of customers generated, and then we move forward with, as you can see, the target keyword. And this obviously is part of the keyword mapping process that I mentioned earlier, because in order for us to be able to make decisions on a page level as to whether or not this page, for example, should be updated or merged with another page, we need to do it on the basis of, this is the target keyword, the keyword that the page is trying to target. Okay. Then we have the position of the target keyword. And let me just say, once again, these are dummy data, guys. I just, use them for the sake of example. And now we have somehow, clear picture as to how each page performs, not only in terms of, organic search data, but also in terms of actual business value that this page may have. For example, the number of leads that it generates, the number of assisted conversions, if any, and the number of customers generated from this page. Okay, which of course you need to have like a tool like Mixpanel or any other tool with product analytics data to get this sort of information. Obviously, yes. Then we have position. Okay, and then what we do is that we map search intent that I mentioned earlier. By the way, you don't have to take any notes. Once again, you will have access to this template with no data, of course, after we finish with this webinar. Okay. We have search intent, and we are going to come here and say, okay, product-led growth. It seems that the search intent behind this target keyword and behind this page is informational, and so on and so forth. Okay. We have the lifecycle stage mapping column, where we will come and say that, what, it seems that someone who is searching for something like brand mentions, for example, is completely unaware of a solution like ours. And we have, when it comes to lifecycle stages, unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware, and so on and so forth. Obviously, these are all both search intent and lifecycle stage, diving deep into these stages and different search intents. I would say is the topic of another webinar. Okay, but if you have any questions, specific to those columns after we finish with the webinar, feel free to reach out, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Then we have to map specific CTAs to every page, because not every page is the same. Like if a page has a purely informational search intent, what's the point of saying that I will prompt people to sign up to request a demo or to sign up for a free trial? People in that at that stage are most likely not there yet. Okay. Then we have internal links, which, as I mentioned, belong to what we call secondary metrics, because internal links are not going to affect our decision. They are going to kind of inform us about something. That's not enough, though, to like affect our decision and say that this page should be updated, and we will not do it because, I don't know, it has 10 internal links, unless something is very high that you cannot ignore. Okay. Then we have date modified. This is a bit tricky to retrieve as a piece of information. Sometimes you can take it from the XML sitemap. Sometimes you can take it from the CMS. It's a bit tricky, but I find it to be, in general, useful to have in this Google Sheet, because at the end of the day, you need to know whether or not the page had the time to perform or not. Okay. An example here would be this page. It was published in late August, I would say. We have to give it some time to perform. Okay. Because if we were to conduct a content audit like now in November, this is not a page we would take seriously, because it didn't really have the time to perform. Okay. Then we move forward with the recommended actions. Okay. And once again, this is our way of approaching things and doing things. You can see here that we have a pretty extensive list of actions that you can take for a page. Content update, content rewrite. You can just leave the page as it is because it performs well and you don't want to mess with it. You may want to redirect the page to another page. You may want to even delete the page in some cases, even if you feel that it may harm your performance, or it may not add any value whatsoever, and so on and so forth. As you can see here, it's pretty extensive, and based on my experience, I would say that the actions that we have here cover pretty much every case that may encounter when it comes to conducting a content audit, and taking actions on a page level. Okay. Two more things here before we move forward. We also have, as you can see here, the internal linking tab, which basically is your way of identifying and pointing out opportunities for pages that would use an extra boost from by taking internal links from other pages on the website that you are conducting the content audit for. Okay. Obviously, this is optional, and I would say for internal linking, I think that this is something we mentioned in one of our previous webinars. For internal linking to have an actual impact, there has to be a really high number of internal links pointing back to a specific page that is important to you. Nevertheless, this is one piece of information that if you are conducting a content audit, you have to pass on to the recipient of the content audit, because in some cases, once again, some pages may need some help, and you should pass this, these internal linking opportunities through this tab. And last but not least, one thing that is also very important is the redirects tab that you can see here, which essentially, as I mentioned, as part of a content audit, unless a company is very focused on organic search and every piece of content that they publish is has a target keyword and everything is very sophisticated and whatever, unless that's the case, there will be some redirects. Okay. And so this is your way of, and this is, a nice place to inform the recipient of a content audit. In most cases, that person will be a developer from the company, that these are the pages that I would like to be redirected to these destination URLs. Okay. And we use an example here, as you can see, from Respona. This is an actual example. We say that this page over here, email deliverability checklist, should be redirected to this destination URL. Okay. Email deliverability. Why? Well, we can see here that this page obviously offers a checklist on email deliverability. However, even though this page was published in March 2022, this year, which means that it had the time to perform, well, it doesn't really seem to perform so well. Okay. I mean, it has visibility for the target keyword, email deliverability, but it's in position 87. Okay. And I would say, judging, from Response overall performance, it seems that, this is not normal. I mean, normally a page like this should perform in Response case. Okay. A reason why this may happen here in this case is because if you take a look at, the target term, email deliverability, we can see what is. Okay, that's great. Tips. Okay. Comprehensive guide, which, includes what is, why is it important, and, how to do it. It may also include some tips. Once again, tips, what is, and so on and so forth. So just by taking a look at the, some of the top 10 results, not even all of them, we can see that, it seems that what we need here is not really a checklist, but it may be a guide with, that explains what is email deliverability, some tips about it, and so on and so forth. So it seems that this could be a good opportunity for us, possibly for a content update. Okay. And then if that's the case, then most likely we will have to redirect this page to the new URL, which is going to be email deliverability. Okay, exact match to the target keyword. And so this is a piece of information, though, that we have to convey and communicate through a tab that's dedicated to redirects. Okay. Another case that I would like to share before we make a pause to discuss any questions that you may have is this one by Mention Analytics. As you can see, this piece of content was published back in 2017, which means that it had a lot of time to perform, and most likely now it's in the phase of traffic fades away, and we most likely have to do something about it. But in this case, it's a bit deeper than that, because as you can see, we have a piece of content on brand marketing. Okay, so far so good. But we can also see something in the title that's connected to brand metrics or analytics. Taking a look at the piece, you will see that the intent here is really mixed, meaning that there is no clear direction as to what the piece is all about. Okay, it talks about metrics, but at the same time, it's a bit confusing for me as a visitor why it refers to brand marketing, since this is not a guide on brand marketing. And if I'm confused as a user, chances are that Google is going to be confused as well. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why the page doesn't perform, and most likely will never perform. Okay, we can see that it ranks for only 2 keywords, brings in almost no traffic at all, and has some visibility for some terms like brand metrics and so on and so forth. In a nutshell, I would say, even if you do this exercise, you bring all this data here, you map keywords to pages, you bring the positions of these keywords, search intent, lifecycle stage, CTA mapping, everything, still you have to conduct a manual review in order to see what's going on with each of the pages that I'm included in this content audit. Okay, any questions?
Yes, we have quite a few. Are you up for 5 or so?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. First up, Bryce asks, what tools do you use for keyword mapping and CTA mapping? Any data visualization tools, maybe Lucid Chart or just spreadsheets?
I would say that that's a great question. When it comes to CTA mapping, you know, simple stuff like Ahrefs or your keyword data provider of choice, and then you just use the template to, because you need to. It's good to have this piece of information here, unless which could be the case, you have different CTAs per piece of content. Okay, but I would say that if you want to keep things simple and you are pretty straightforward as to what the CTAs are for a page, then Google Sheets along with Ahrefs, and that's it.
On that same topic, we have another question on calls to action. Grace asked, "Am I correct in thinking you create custom URLs per CTA per page?" I think the question is getting at is how do you attribute a successful conversion back to a blog post?
That's a great question. I would say that it heavily depends on the intent. For example, if we are talking about a page that covers what is a search intent, like as I mentioned previously, you can really expect that people will sign up for a free trial or request a demo or anything like that. The most appropriate CTA in a case like this would be read further. Okay, which is great, by the way. However, that's one case. If we talk about a page, alternatives page, okay, Respawn alternatives, for example, since we are using Respawna here, then obviously if I am an alternative and I am presenting myself as an alternative to Respawna, then obviously the CTA will be something that is connected to, like, request a demo or a free trial or whatever, and is obviously connected to taking some sort of action that has a monetary value for me, because the intent is different. This is why we say that CTA mapping should be done in the context of a content audit on a page level. Okay, I don't know if that answers your question, but I would say that you have to go back and really take a very close look at what's the intent and the stage that the person who is conducting the search and who is visiting the page is at, when they are on your website.
Cool. Grace, feel free to drop a message if that did or did not answer your question, and we'll make sure it's taken care of. A few other quick ones for you, George. Avika asked, "There's a lot of debate over keywords with zero search volume. What's your standpoint on that?"
I would say that search volume, first of all, it's not a perfect metric by no means. No matter what keyword data provider you use, you have to keep in mind that these keyword data providers, specifically for the search volume, they take into account averages, most likely from the last 12 months. Okay, so by no means search volume is a perfect metric. It cannot tell you that this trend or this topic is rising right now. There are other tools, by the way, you can use for that. So I would, my answer here would be, and our approach here would be, that we take into account search volume when we are making decisions on what keywords to go after and so on and so forth, but up to a certain extent, because there are other things that you need to take into account as well. Okay, now speaking of zero volume keywords, or however they are called, I would say, if you feel that this is a topic that's been discussed by my target audience, it's important for me to talk about it, and I have to write a blog post about it. Don't take a look at what keyword data providers tell you. You know your audience better. You have to write about this topic, no matter if there is a search volume or whatever.
Got it. That's a very helpful answer. A quick one from Nicole, who asked, "How much time does it generally take for a page to start ranking and getting organic traffic?"
It depends. It depends. It depends. And I will tell you why. We are doing content creation for one of our clients for consistently for 2.5 years now. And I can tell you that because we are consistent, and obviously, the content is great, there is also link building involved. We have seen this in several cases actually this year. We publish a page, and in a few hours, it ranks in the top 10. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood. That's not always the case. In fact, in most cases, that's not the case. But if you are consistent over a long period of time and you consistently roll out very good content and nice graphics, and you care about UX, you do link building, you promote your content, and so on and so forth, you can expect that your content will, in most cases, rank faster. Obviously, there is a difference between newer websites and older, more established websites, but based on our experiences so far, all the things that I mentioned, play a role.
Got it. Maybe just, I think we have two more and then we can jump back in. These are all like pretty contextual, so I feel like it makes sense to address them now. Jasmine said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I noticed the template only has one keyword per page. What do you do if there's multiple keywords per page? And is the template still applicable if that's the case?
First of all, you will have you will make a copy of the template and you can add a column, but I wouldn't recommend so when it comes to like assigning 2 or more keywords on a page. Most likely a page will rank for more keywords. Okay, in some cases there are pages that rank for thousands of keywords, hundreds of keywords. Okay, however, I think, and once again, this goes back to, this is our way of approaching things, that one page should have one target keyword to begin with. If it will be associated with other keywords and rank for more keywords moving forward, that's a thing that Google will decide. Okay, but there has to be a very clear targeting. One page, one target keyword.
Got it. Okay. We have more questions and a few more just rolled in, but I think maybe just jump back into the slides and I'll save some of these for towards the end.
Let's do it that way, because we have a couple more things to share that are very important, and we will.
Cool.
I'm okay staying more to do these questions. Okay. So, excuse me. We mentioned and we talked a lot about page level recommendations. The problem is that we, as content marketers, SEO professionals, however we want to label ourselves, we are so focused on making decisions on a page level, because this is where we have more control over the outcome of these recommendations that we make, and the execution also. I believe, though, that our job doesn't stop there and shouldn't stop there, because we should, once again, take a holistic approach when it comes to auditing our content, and taking actions that will help us improve content performance and also drive meaningful business outcomes. So when we are conducting a content audit nowadays, we also take into account, we provide recommendations on a blog-wide level, and we categorize those into 3 buckets. We have UX based recommendations, content based, and SEO based. Okay, now we have here some examples of how that may look like. And once again, let me just say that this is very case specific. Every blog is different, and obviously some of these may or may not apply, depending on how a company does content. Now, when it comes to UX, we take a look at things like, how is the above the fold experience? Is there anything we can improve so that people who visit that page get value right away? Headings and body size, so that everything looks beautiful for someone to read and consume, both on desktop and mobile. Recommended articles, which comes in handy when the intent is mostly informational or purely informational, and we want to push, let's say, or prompt people towards reading more of our content. In post call to actions, and how beautiful they are, and how they communicate what we want the actions that we would like people to take, and many more things. Okay, so UX is something very neglected, but in my opinion, something that we will talk more and more in the future, because it's also one of the things that is not so saturated yet, because most websites can do content, most websites can do link building, not all websites can create meaningful experiences. Okay, then we take into account content, and we take a look at things like the taxonomy of the content. We advise on the publishing frequency, how these website sources and sites images that they use, whether or not the website accepts guest posts or not, and many more things on a high level. Okay, most of the things that I mentioned, some of them can be like actionable. I would like you to do something about this right away. For example, your above the fold experience is not optimal. Let's do something about it based on that beautiful mock-up that we have designed right now. Some other, though, may be on a very high level. Once again, things that we can improve in the way we approach content. And last but not least, we have SEO, especially if SEO is part of your content strategy. And we take a look at things like indexation issues that the part of the blog may have, the URL structure that you usually follow and use, any issues when it comes to canonical tags. I don't want to get too technical here, and EAT, which is one of the things that many SEO professionals talk about, and I think that many content marketers who create content for a search audience will talk about in the future, in the sense of we need to ensure that our content, whoever writes that content, is capable of demonstrating expertise, trustworthiness, authoritativeness, and so on and so forth. So these are some things that we evaluate, let's say, and provide recommendations on when we are conducting a content audit, because I strongly believe that our work shouldn't stop just by providing page level recommendations and call it a day. We should dive deeper into things. Okay, and many of these things, so far at least, are not things that most websites can compete on. Like, as I mentioned previously, creating a memorable experience for people who visited your website. Okay, now a question here could be, okay, so far so good, George. You told us all these great things, but I mean, where do we get started, and how should we think about it? I will not tell you how to think about it. I will tell you how we do things, and you can keep whatever works, may work for you. Okay, when you are going to conduct your next content audit. So first of all, we start with some content updates and content rewrites, and more specifically, we perform content updates that are connected to redirects and pages that need to be deleted. This means that, do we have a page, or let me put it differently, we have 6 pages on the blog that kind of touch on the same topic. Okay, and we say that, you know what, why should we have 6 pages and not just one very in-depth guide that cover pretty much everything that all these 6 pages have? Okay, this is a content update that we are going to perform first because it's connected to redirects. Okay, once we apply these content updates, then we are going to apply the 301 redirects, merges, or however you want to call them, and also the pages that need to be deleted. Okay, now for pages that need to be deleted, let me just say that you shouldn't, or you wouldn't want to delete entirely, like completely, a page. It's better to unpublish it. Okay, and even when you unpublish it, it's always recommended to add a 301 redirects, just in case. Okay, just in case there are some forgotten links somewhere there in the web, back to this page. And also, don't forget that when applying a redirect, you should always remove the page from the XML sitemap. Okay, so this is what we are going to do next. Then, even though I really don't subscribe to the term quick wins, we should go after some quick wins. We should apply optimizations that may result in a quick win. Once again, I don't subscribe to the term, and but at the end of the day, if you have this and if you manage to get some quick wins, this will give you some early validation and maybe get you more resources in order to do more and more things that will get results for you and your company. Okay. And after we finish with the first 3 points, then we are going to do everything else. Okay, everything that's left. Obviously, gradually we can't do everything at once, but that also depends on how big or small your content inventory is. One thing that I would like to mention in conjunction with what I shared with you, regarding prioritization, you're going to get access to this template that we use, this little tool. This can help you if you want to communicate why we should do a content audit on our blog, okay? And not only communicate it and talk about traffic, as I mentioned previously, which, by the way, without context can be just a vanity metric, but also bring some business outcomes on the table in the conversation. Okay, so let's say that your current monthly organic traffic is 50K, and you feel that, what, we are missing a lot of opportunities. And I feel that if we are going to do a content audit this quarter, Q4, we can hopefully, obviously, by creating new content as well, by December 2023, we can get to 150K per month. Okay, that's great. You can add these numbers here. Then you can add the start month and the end month. By default, our tool has a maximum interval of 12 months. And I would recommend also going with 12 months, okay, January to December or whatever. Then you can choose the type of growth. We have linear, logarithmic, or exponential. I would say that you can choose linear in most cases. In some cases, when you're talking about new websites, you could go with exponential as well, okay? And then you can say to your boss, your company, whatever, that what, we need to make a serious investment in content marketing, content audit, content creation, link building, whatever. And I estimate that based on the budget that I have, I will need to invest 20K per month into all of these to run my operations. Okay, that's great. Then we can say that, what, we know that so far our view to lead, this is where leads come in handy, that we mentioned earlier, is 1%. This is average, by no means perfect number. And our lead to customer conversion rate is 2.5%. Across, once again, average, by no means a perfect metric, but I would argue it's better than having nothing and trying to get more buy-in, get more budget without talking about business metrics or business outcomes at all. And at the same time, let's assume that your average LTV is 1K. As simple as that, okay? In the next tab, once again, you will have access to this, so you don't have to take any notes or whatever. You can see how things are projected. No forecasting model is perfect, okay? But I can tell you, based on our experience and my experience, my personal experience, that this is way better than having nothing and going to a conversation to talk about, budget or whatever without anything. So you can use it, you can play around with the numbers, and you can have something that you can present to your company, to your boss, to whomever you're going to have these conversations with when you are prioritizing actions and, in general, requesting more to run a proper content marketing operation. Okay, have a couple more slides, and then we can discuss, any further questions that may have that you may have dropped in the chat. Tools to use. First of all, Ahrefs. Full disclaimer: Ahrefs is the sponsor of our podcast. they are our tool of use either way. I just wanted to be fully transparent with you. Then we use obviously Screaming Frog as a crawler, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and product analytics software such as Mixpanel in order to be able to know, the performance of a piece of content on a business level. Google Sheets to, actually manage the whole process, or to have a basis for your content audit data. ClickUp or any other project management software, and also, last but not least, ClearScope when updating content that underperforms. When you have identified an opportunity that, okay, this page, there is something here. Okay, we need to conduct a content update or a complete rewrite, and I believe that this page has the potential to do better. Okay. Now, one thing that you may think here, because we all have access to SEO tools and we all, hear a lot of things here and there. And the question here could be, wait a minute, isn't that all these things that I described, isn't that the same as using a tool that finds content with decaying performance? I would say no. And the reason I would give three arguments here. The first is that content performance should be tied to business performance. Most SEO tools can't do that, at least yet. Okay. Most SEO tools will tell you that, you know what, go on and update this page because it has a drop in keywords, it has a drop in, organic clicks or whatever. They will not tie that to business performance and tell you that this page, doesn't just rank for keywords, it also brings in signups. So we better do something for this page now before it's too late. Okay. The second argument, a proper content audit should include recommendations on a blog-wide level, of course, on a page level as well, by taking into account things like UX, as I mentioned previously. Okay. Most SEO tools cannot do that yet. And third, and this is the last one, a proper content audit should combine data and also opinion, human perspective, to make decisions. Okay. Obviously, most SEO tools cannot do that yet. So the process that we described today, guys, is by no means perfect. Okay. But it's the best, and it cannot even compare to having a tool that tells you that, you know what, let's update this page because it fell from position number 2 to position number 6. Okay. Last but not least, and I will leave you this is the last slide of this webinar. These are the principles that we try to use internally when conducting content audits for our clients. The first one, and I will stress that because it's extremely important, content performance should be tied to business performance. If our work doesn't result into business outcomes, then we should take a step back and reevaluate the way we do content. We need to use data to make your case, but at the same time, we need to be realistic about the results. Improving content performance is much more than content optimization. We saw today that there are so many other things that you can take into account, such as UX, improving the above the fold experience, how your headings and body size look like, and so on and so forth. When it comes to execution, I would say if you are not ready to take action right after you finish with the content audit, it's better not to do it at all, because we have seen in several cases companies, they are excited, they get excited about the content audit. Let's do it. I have the budget. It's great. Let's do it. And then they just, fail to execute. Because when it comes to content audits, one thing that is important to keep in mind is that, like, you get the results of a content audit today, you have to execute on it, because the results may be outdated in 3 months from today. Okay. And the last but not least, obviously, if you don't have the time or expertise, knowledge, whatever, capacity to do it yourself, you should always ask for help. Okay. And that was it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George. Bringing it as always. We have a few minutes left. Why don't we try to get through a couple questions? If folks do have to hop at the end of the hour, though, Definitely check out minutia.com, two T's. George and his team offer a suite of strategy and content creation services. Also, the website has been recently redesigned and looks very sharp. We'll also link to George's LinkedIn in our follow-ups. As soon as we get off this call, I'll shoot an email out to everyone who registered with links to the templates and a link to this recording as well. Okay, a few questions. A few people asked about using SEMrush. Could you do anything that Ahrefs helps you with in this process with SEMrush, or do you know?
Of course. I mean, why not? You can, of course, you can use SEMrush or any other tool for that matter to get keyword data, referring domains, assign keywords to pages, and so on and so forth. There's no limitation, of course.
Okay, cool. Let's see a few others. How do you decide when to update a content piece? What about content that's based on current events?
I would say that these are two different, questions. As I understand it, at least, the when is something that you will answer by, like doing the exercise, what we just described today. But once again, you have to give a page time to perform. I mean, if you published it last month and you like happen to do a content audit this month, you shouldn't take this page into account in your content audit. Okay, so you may have to exclude some pages to make sure that these pages had some time to perform. Okay, that's one thing. The second, regarding current events, I would say this is a different topic. I mean, you have to follow and monitor current events, and once again, in my experience, keyword data providers and SEO tools in general are not the best and at helping you identify emerging topics and things that people discuss right now. Exactly because the way they provide you with search volumes is kind of based on past data. Okay, so they are not enough. You could use other tools for that, such as exploding topics, for example, is one I can think of. Or do your own research and develop your own process to identify these emerging topics.
Got it. Helpful. There's one here from Afnan that I really like. What do you do when your pillar page starts ranking for a keyword that you already created other articles for? So let's say you have a pillar page for email templates and an article with something more specific, like email templates for job seekers, but the pillar ranks in place of the keyword. Basically, when you have competing content I mean, these are not exactly the same thing, but very close.
That's a great question. To give you though a good answer, I would like to know what the pillar page is and what the other page that ranks for the target keyword is. So if you could reach out on LinkedIn and just give me the two URLs, because I want to give you a good answer, and that's not so easy to answer.
Okay, cool. Another one here. Does content audit strategy change for early stage companies versus a more established company?
I would say that it changes obviously as you increase your publishing velocity. For example, if a company publishes like 50 pieces of content per month, obviously this company needs to do more regular content audits as opposed to a company that publishes, I don't know, 12 pieces of content per month. In general, the bigger your content inventory, the higher the need for you to perform regular content audits. I hope this is logic. Like, yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. I think maybe just one last question. If you want to target a short tail keyword that has lots of volume compared to your other targeted keywords, how many content pieces do you dedicate towards that one short tail keyword?
That's a great question, and I will give you the answer through a webinar we did with ClearScope, which you can find on ClearScope's YouTube channel, which I think touches on that topic. Um, it's case specific, obviously, and there is no perfect answer, but I'm pretty confident that this webinar will give you answers to this question and even more.
I'm just doing a quick search for it, George. Is it how to build topical authority?
That's the one.
Okay, cool. I'll drop a link in here for folks. Cool. I think that's everything. And folks are starting to drop off as they head on to other calls and the rest of their day. So probably a good place to wrap up. We'll follow up with an email with templates, with slides, with the recording. Thank you, George, so much. You always bring it with the webinars. These are always incredibly helpful. I always appreciate how just action oriented they are. Like I have a very good understanding of what I could go do right now. So appreciate that. Thank you so much to everyone for coming, and we'll see you back next week for a webinar, and hopefully for more soon with George too.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, and thank you to all of you who joined us and stayed with us until the end.
Cool. Thanks, George. Thanks, everybody. Take care.